Ladies and gentlemen, board game fans the world over, today's matchup is set for the best 3 of 5 decisions, and there must be a winner. Sit back, relax, and enjoy as Roll to Hit Gaming proudly presents Board Game Battle Royal. Today's matchup features 2 thematically similar hobby games in head-to-head competition. Our Roll to Hit Gaming judges will score each game on art and components, setup and rules, gameplay, theme, and lasting appeal. Thank you for tuning in for this exciting main event matchup. And now, your Roll to Hit Gaming ringside hosts. Welcome to the first episode of Roll to Hit Gaming's Board Game Battle Royal.
Today's theme pits 2 games together that put you in the role of TV network executives. That's going to be Primetime versus the networks.
Now these are 2 games that we all both really enjoy, so we're pitting 2 titans of the theme together. We're going to rate these games over the course of 5 categories that we've selected that will flash on your screen now quickly. Thank you, Lucas. And we will rate those, give our opinions, and at the end of the battle, the last game standing is the winner. For Roll to Hit Gaming, I'm Chip.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Lucas.
So for art and components, let's talk about Primetime.
Now, Primetime is a great game, as we said, but I think when it comes to components, the card stock from this game is actually top-notch. I would rate it a little bit better than the networks, but not by much. I mean, we're talking about splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
I thought the wooden pieces in it, though, weren't as nice as in the networks, because you get some stickers on your pieces there and that kind of stuff. There is a slight issue with the coloring. I don't know if this was a batch job that went bad, but there supposedly are red cubes in Primetime that seem to be of some type of pinkish color, and on the cards themselves that tell you that you need red cubes, they're clearly red. So that was one issue. And then I had a little bit of nitpick with duplicate cards. There are some cards that are just simply duplicates of the others, so you're going to see those come up again and again. And one other last little nitpick was we ran out of dollars. And when you run out of dollar tokens in a game that uses a bunch of them, that's a little bit of a problem. So that's my, I guess, nutshell on Primetime. What about you guys?
Yeah, I had a lot of this of the similar notes. You know, there weren't enough dollar pieces. At 2 players, you don't run into that problem, but at more than 2, you do. Again, the wooden cubes not being the right color. I thought the cards were good quality, and I thought the cardboard was good quality, other than the little lanes that make up your lineup board that you put your cards out to. You know, that they fold so that they'll fit in the box because they're, you know, yay long, and they're just kind of, the fold is not reinforced, and I think over time that's gonna,
a little flimsy.
It's a little flimsy. It's gonna come apart.
Probably.
But for art, I really liked the artistic style of Primetime. Because it was less cartoony. It still kind of had a, what do you call those things, a caricature, almost oil painting kind of look, but it was less cartoony than the networks. And the graphic design, which, you know, everybody's going to have a different opinion on what that's for, but I think the graphic design of your board and your cards and all that stuff should make the game simple to understand, and I feel like Primetime accomplishes that with its graphic design, so I'm going to give it a plus for that.
Speaking of the board itself, I felt that it popped. It was very clean art on that, and the cards and the board, all of it flowed seamlessly. It didn't look like any piece of it was kind of out of place. So as far as the art is concerned, definitely it's a great representation of the theme there. The inconsistent color, like you mentioned with the blocks, it wasn't like, oh, it's just a little bit off. I mean, it was like blatant.
It's pretty striking.
It's striking, like peach versus, you know, supposedly red when you come to blocks versus the color on the cards. The one little thing I wanted to mention about the wooden bits, again, it could have been the batch that I got, but some of it was chipped paint, or some of the pieces themselves looked like it was a bad cut, so it was a little ragged on some of the edges. So, but as far as the art's concerned, I thought it was wonderful.
So let's talk about the networks. Now, I said that the scoreboard, we talked about the small folding pieces in prime time. Now, the network scoreboard comes in multiple pieces. Two of the pieces sort of just sit next to each other. They're just sort of long tiles. And then there are the third piece to that is dependent on the number of players. Now, I understand kind of why they did it, because you know, there's not really a good way to do that if that last board has to be special for the number of players.
Right.
But I didn't really care for the way that it's in just 3 loose parts. I would have preferred a folding board. Again, I don't know if there's a way to make that happen logistically, but
I put down that was clunky. And you know, we're on art too, right? It's bland.
It is,
you know, it's just kind of gray and white. You know, it's really, really bland.
Now, I said that the component quality is great. The cards and board, they're all, you know, they're all up to standards. Nothing left me wanting there. It's just the arrangement of that scoreboard.
Well, for the networks, I wanted to point out that they had very colorful cards. The art, though, was a bit disappointing in their choice, but because it was more cartoony and not like a happy cartoony way. It was very gritty.
I likened it to South Park.
Right, very South Parkish. But the cards themselves were easy to read and understand. There's a little bit of iconography, very, very little. But you could tell immediately what each card was for, what you needed for that card, and you know, so gameplay, which we'll talk about a little bit later, those cards help with that. Very simple to understand and read. It had standard wooden bits too, so you know, nothing crazy about that. It was just pretty standard. But again, the art was disappointing for their choice for that.
I mean, I actually wrote, I don't like the parody style art. For me, it really, really took away from the components, from the art and components section. You know, the cards are fine. The tokens were actually pretty good. But one of the things that I thought was, you know, odd were the network cards were really just text. You know, maybe maybe we could have spiced those up with a little more art. Everything else in the game has some art on it, and the network cards are just kind of text. So that was a little wonky in the art department. So, but I had a lot of the same notes. This one also I felt had good graphic design. It helped me understand what everything did. So again, I'm going to give this one a plus on graphic design, but don't like the art.
All right, judges, here we are at ringside, and we need our decision for components. So, Lucas, which one are you going to choose? Who won the components? You
know, components-wise, with one of them having an art style I just did not like at all. I felt it was a knockout, and I went prime time with components.
Okay. What you, Joe?
This one was actually super tough for me because I liked a lot of the things with the networks, but not so much the art. But the quality of the wooden bits and the shoddiness of some of the pieces, it kind of made it even, Steven. So for me, it's the networks.
Okay. Well, to be the tiebreaker there, I guess I chose the networks also. Again, a lot of the reasons you said, the art to me on the network side just was a little bit simple to me, and the component quality there of having the peach pieces, just kind of, like I said, we're splitting hairs, but this is a match of titans in their field. So the networks took it for me on this category. So that's 2-1. It looks like the networks pulls ahead early in the match for a component victory.
For ease of setup and rules, we're going to start with the networks. And I didn't have a lot of notes for this one. I thought it was a simple setup to get in and playing, but there's a lot of shuffling. So if you don't like shuffling, that's going to play into that. It can be a little bit of a table hog. You know, you've got 4+ different decks, and it kind of takes up some space. But I thought, you know, and this is a huge plus for me, the rule book was clear and well formatted, really easy to get into the game and playing quickly. A good rule book, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
It said much the same thing. Easy setup, rules are clear and easy to understand, and the iconography is pretty simple to pick up really fast and go with.
They touched on both of the things that I wanted to focus on too, especially that rule book. So really, I have nothing to add to that.
So what about prime time? Chip?
Well, it is a little bit more complicated, the rule book and just the gameplay. But I guess, in comparison, it's a heavier Euro than the Networks is. But the rule book is a bit more complicated and a little bit less well put together. It's doing a little bit of jumping around, and there are some questions that we came to that we didn't quite get answered, the way we like getting answered, and we kind of had to make a decision and go. And then single shows. There's a specific rule in primetime where single run shows. You have three types: single runs, mini series, and full series. Single run shows can't have talent applied to them. And the rule in the rule book is very clear. Right. But, as human beings are apt to do, we completely forget about that. And there's no, I thought it would be a simple fix just to put some kind of icon on those specific cards to remind you, jog your memory that you cannot apply talents there, because once you do, you're done. And the game moves pretty fast. Yep. So once you've done a score phase with that and messed that up, you've really botched the game.
You really can't go back.
And you really can't go back because you're never going to remember the amount of cubes in different color combinations that you had and things like that. So that was just one minor thing, but I thought they could have done that part better.
In case in point to what you said before, they had several rules that was basically open to interpretation. Yeah. They weren't clear enough, or they didn't think of that, and so it made me wonder, did they not play test it enough before they wrote out that rule book?
Yeah, really. This one's, I thought it was fairly easy to set up, even though there are more moving pieces, so it takes a little bit longer, but it's pretty easy to set up. Really, for me, this one comes down to a battle of the rule books.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like this discussion tended to go that way. Chip, you want to cast your vote here?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, in this battle, it was quick hits, but that rule book came down to it. It's going to be the Networks for me on this one.
The rule book, definitely. So it's got to be the Networks.
Unanimous decision. The rule book takes it for the Networks.
So let's focus on theme. And we're going to start with primetime. What do you think?
Well, I really enjoy the idea of this theme, so I think I took a more hat down over the eyes serious approach than other people might have. For primetime, I felt like the better art really added to the theme, and there were some of the silly, cutesy names for the actors and shows, but it wasn't every card. So that brought it down a little bit, but it didn't kill it. For theme though, the PR action in primetime allows you to manipulate the demographic cubes, which you're placing. Basically, they represent viewers on a given day, and the PR action allows you to manipulate where those cubes are on those tracks. So if I've got my big show on Thursday, I can try to bring the right kind of viewers onto Thursday so that I can try to get the money for those viewers. And as we did that, it really felt thematic to me because I felt like I was doing marketing, targeting the specific type of viewer that I wanted to view my show. So I really thought that particular worker placement action added a lot to the theme. And then if your show or a talent or a director or whatever doesn't manage to attract one of those demographic cubes, that show either gets canceled or the actor or the talent gets fired. And again, that was right in there, right? Because in TV, if you're not watching the show, or if everybody hates that actor, they're gone, right? So I really thought that helped play into the theme. And this is one of those games that evokes thematic discussion, because when you put Zombie Dad on the air, there's always a conversation about that, right? And that just helps the theme.
Yep.
Go ahead.
This is where they come to body blows, okay? Both are obviously about scheduling your network shows, your lineup, but primetime to me really felt more like the long-term network planning over the course of season. Right. And it does that well. Now, nitpicks, there's no branding in primetime.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, just color. You have, you play red or you play purple or whatever, but you don't have, there's no unique station that you're running.
Right.
So that was one little nitpick. And then, but like you said, that demographic, that's where the game is right there. That's the puzzle of the game, is moving those cubes and picking the right days and putting the right combinations of shows and talent together on that. And that is a great mechanic, a great system right there. Really brings the theme forward.
So when you're talking about primetime, for me, as you mentioned before, it really focuses on the viewership, and so you have those cubes, and each colored cube represents a specific type of viewer, be it a couch potato, which are the wild, you have wild blocks that can be any color, or ones that are more family oriented, ones that are more like men versus women. So they actually nailed that very well. The one thing that they you didn't mention was there are 6 rounds in the game. At round 3, you kind of have this award ceremony type thing. So it's almost like, what is it for the TV?
The Emmys.
The Emmys, yeah.
Right. It's almost like you have a mid-season Emmys, and then an after the 6th one, you have another one, and you follow the hotness too. So if you have a really good show and it just keeps getting better and better, then your ranking as far as the hotness also increases. So they really did a good job on bringing theme to this game. So I was impressed with that. But let's look at the networks.
Well, the networks I thought were fast-paced, but when I talked about primetime being the long-term season planning, to me, the networks felt like I was just basically planning the week, or maybe even
planning
just
an evening.
An evening. So it didn't really feel like that the seasons were being planned by me. But I think in the gameplay, it speaks to seasons, right? But now on the flip side of that, so there is branding in the networks, and I appreciated that. Everybody has a unique station.
Yeah, that's good touch.
It's silly, but it was a nice touch, right? And so I liked that part of it.
Yeah, I had the same thought with this one. It evoked that thematic discussion. I'll start off with some of the positives. I really liked the fact that you gain money for landing advertising in the networks, right? We all know that's how they pay for these shows, so that seemed really thematic to me. And then prerequisites for shows. If you're going to put a certain show on the air, it has to have advertising and it has to have a star. And I thought that was kind of the nuts and bolts there, right? To make the TV show happen, you've got to have somebody paying for it, and you've got to have somebody people want to see in it. So thought those two things really added to the theme. And I guess I'm going to harp on this again, but to me, the art was a huge detractor from the theme. It took me out of it because, like I said, being so interested in this theme, I think I was a little more serious going into it, and wanted a little more serious approach than what they gave me with the art style as it relates to the theme.
Well, for me, the theme was very light but well done. As you had said before, with primetime, it was more like a network feel, HBO, NBC, whatever. For me, the networks was more like PBS.
Okay, yeah.
Because not only are you doing shows, but in the right time slot. You wouldn't want a mature adult type, like The Walking Dead or whatever, in an 8 o'clock time frame. That was for later time frame. So if you match those up, it was better for you. You got more points. Got more viewers, and so I really appreciated that, and of course adding the advertising. That was a lot of fun, and it coincided with the right type of advertising in the right time slot with the right show. So I think they did really well. It was on, it wasn't a high an echelon as prime time, but it still made sense with what it gave you. So now for the voting, who do you vote for?
So it's coming off the ropes. It took a pounding early in, but prime time is coming off the ropes and it's starting to fight back for me.
I agree. For me, thematically attaching myself to one of these games or the other, big right hook for prime time.
and it's a 3 hit and they're down. It's prime time because that theme just stands out.
Yeah. And now our contenders are back in the middle of the ring, and we're going to talk about gameplay. Let's start with the networks. This is the nuts and bolts of the game, the mechanics, how they all fit together. Lucas, what do you got?
Networks is a quick playing game. You know, that's always going to be a good thing. It's got an easy flow, so turns are not complicated. I like the preferred time mechanic. You know, I felt like it really added a little bit to what you're trying to manage. You know, for a lighter game, I want to manage a little more. And then, other than the standard blocking, I guess this maybe is a minus. Other than the standard blocking, you know, there wasn't a lot of interaction. Even with the game calls them interactive cards, and you can decide whether to play with them or not. And they're kind of a little bit of take that. And I don't normally like that, but I thought these were so mild that I really didn't mind their impact on the game. I would actually recommend playing with them, and that's not something that I would typically recommend. So that was my thoughts on it, Joe.
Well, for me, like what you said, very quick turns. I mean, you can pretty much scope out what you're going to do, unless someone snags your card that you need. But there's always another one you can do, or you can plan to go a different direction, and it's real quick and easy. Very little AP because you only have so many cards, and they refresh each round. So. And you're only running a 3-hour time slot, so you're not programming like a prime time an entire week. So very quick, very easy, lots of fun. I really did enjoy the gameplay in the network.
Yeah, it is fast play. There's really not a lot of mechanics onto the board. Most of this game is just thinking of how you're going to make those combinations. Really, it's just who gets to the card first. If you and another player wants them, whose turn is it to grab it, right? Do you press your luck to wait, and maybe you'll make another round to get that advertisement you need to make a little bit extra money, but there's no bidding, nothing like that. You just pick and go. So a very quick play. Now let's talk about prime time. Got a little more meat on its bones. Joe, what do you think?
Well, for that one, you have the cube manipulation. So when you're talking about the viewers and the demographics, so that on top of building your Monday through Friday show lineup, on top of the talents, on top of the writers, on top of the producers, there's a lot to it. So there's a lot more AP that's going to happen there. And it happens frequently, and it's just because it's in a constant state of flux, right? And you have the ability to move your show from one day to the next. So you can say, well, oh, Monday's not working for me anymore because the demographics have changed. The viewership has changed because somebody changed the blocks. So you can actually shift your show over to Thursday. So it's a lot more thinky being a Euro game. So you're going to have a lot of hurry up and then wait, right? So for me, that was the main points of the gameplay for primetime.
Yeah, the AP hurts me in my soul, you know. But
luckily everybody's doing it together.
True. But this one to me offsets it because of the crunchiness that I really like. You know, like she said, you know, you can hire a director and an actor and a writer and all of these different things to complement your show, which to me added to the scale of what we were doing. Right. There was a very focused scale in the networks, and I preferred the bigger scale of prime time, other than the AP that it tends to build. I'm not normally a fan of bidding, but I felt like the bidding phase works really well because there's a neat mechanic for when you get outbid, you then get a deal that you wouldn't normally otherwise have gotten because you can get a show or a talent for cheaper than you would have paid for them. So, you know, a neat consolation prize for not getting the thing you wanted because they paid way more than you're going to. You know, and you know you're still going to get something nice out of it. Love the modification of the demographics. It is that Euro crunchiness that I absolutely adore about this game, with one little exception. There's a black cube, and he's a wild viewer. The book says he's the couch potato. He'll watch anything. And I wonder if this wild viewer isn't just a little too versatile and messes with the balance a little bit. In the games that we've played of it over the last few years, it seems to me that the player who masters that black cube does a lot better than the others, right? So I wonder if that cube is just a little too versatile.
I think you definitely have to keep up with it. I think there are less of those than any of the others.
Maybe,
But if you just get that lucky pull throughout your game, especially early on where a lot of those black cubes come out, they're going to stay the whole game. There's no way to get rid of them. There's so much in this game, right?
Yeah.
So you've got worker placement. You've got set collection, trying to get those cubes, put them in the right place. You've got bidding auction. You've got you got money management. You got schedule management. There's just so much gameplay, so many mechanics, but they pull it off.
Yeah, they do.
They pull it off really well. I mean, listen, you throw this many Euro mechanics together, you could really go off the rails if you don't watch it. But I think they do a good job. I also enjoy the bidding way, and what you said, when you get outbid, that's the way to do it, right? If I get outbid, give me a boon somewhere, right? Let me come back. It is more prone to AP, but as I said, luckily everybody's sort of having their AP at the same time. So it's only the real heavy offenders that might be left going, okay, I'm sorry guys, I know it's my turn. And then the only one little nitpick I had was at the shows and the talent that come out. For price sake, they've interlaced gold and silver cards.
Yeah.
And the gold ones obviously take more minimum bid and go higher for their bid than the silvers do, but they're all from one deck. And the rule is basically you have 2 slots for the gold and 3 slots for the silver. And every round, as you're laying out these cards of what's going to be available this round, it tells you, pull and start on the left and go with the gold, and the silver, start on the left and go with the silver. And if you just keep drawing until you fill up the thing and then discard everything else. It's a little bit clunky, but I don't know a better way to do it. Because obviously you want to have cards that are more expensive, and if you don't put some kind of filter in there like that, you're going to have a round where you pull 5 gold cards and nobody can afford them. So I understand why they do it, just a little small nitpick. So.
Well, they don't want 4 separate decks either, just to fill in those spaces.
Right. Okay, so back in the center, they're doing their punching. Jolene, what do you think?
Oh, this was another tough one for me because I really enjoyed the quick play of networks, but for that demographics and epicness of it, I'm gonna have to give gameplay to Primetime.
Okay, Lucas?
Yeah, the quick clean is nice, but I've got to go with the crunchiness. This was a close round, but Primetime got a few more jabs in for me.
Totally agree. It's a heavy hitter, but it's come off the ropes and now it's showing what it can do. Primetime hands down for me in gameplay.
So lasting appeal is our bang for your buck category. How often is this one actually going to make it onto your table, and for how long are you actually going to want to play these titles? We'll start the discussion with Primetime, and I'll just, I have a few points here. The duplicate show and talent cards that you brought up earlier, for me that really hurts variety. It felt, and I don't want to cast dispersions because, like you said at the beginning, we really enjoy these games. It felt lazy to me. Come up with another name and get another piece of art and have some extra variety, because variety is what you need if you want to keep playing a game over and over again. Another thing for me that hurts the replayability of this one is it doesn't appear, because it's been several years now, that there'll be any expansions for Primetime. And that doesn't seem to be Golden Egg's model either, to do expansions. So that hurts. But on the other side of that coin, that demographic puzzle, that changes the puzzle every game, and that right there might be enough to keep it coming back onto the table time and time again.
Well, as far as lasting appeal goes, when I think of that, like you said, how often will it hit the table? Is it something to be like, oh, what do I want to play tonight? It's this. So it is a long Euro game. It is very crunchy, which I enjoy that. With some of the components issues and the duplicate cards, as you mentioned, that kind of brings it down for me, and running into that long AP that's consistent. So I'm not too sure about the lasting appeal on the long run. It's a great game. It's fun to play, but how often I'll play it, I'm just not sure yet.
For me, I mean, again, it's a great game, and anybody who requests me to play it, I would be glad to sit down and play it. The one, and you basically just said everything, Lucas. The duplicate card issue bothers me, but the cube combos are so cool, and there's so much possibility there. I mean, you're going to get a different game every time. So,
yep. So let's go to the networks. For me, the card pool is exhaustive. You know, each one of the stacks is pretty thick. And we haven't actually played a game yet where we exhausted a stack.
Yeah.
So, you know, that tells me that there's some range to play with in there, and I really like that. It's there was an on-the-air, I guess, mini expansion that we picked up at BGG last year, and another expansion is coming that just adds to lasting appeal.
With what you said, it does have more replayability because of all that, and adding the ads to it. It's fun, it's light, it's a shorter game. So I think that would make it hit the table more often. So crunchy versus, you know.
Maybe with a wider audience because of that.
Right.
It's a fury of blows for me. I mean, like what I've heard from Elad Goldsteen is he makes one and moves on, right?
It seems that way.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And like you said, an expansion coming for networks, and the no duplicate cards. I had to actually go through and look through the decks just to see, and there are none. Those are just positives to me all around.
Yep. So each game scored 2 rounds. So this will be the decisive round. Joe, who are you going with here?
Basing on lasting appeal, how often it'll hit the table versus the other, how much fun I have comparatively, the networks.
I gotta agree. It's the networks.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Unanimous decision this round.
Oh, so there it is. It's a TKO, man.
Woo!
Come off. We thought the primetime was making a comeback, but in the end, again, guys, these are both games that we enjoy out the wazoo, and so we're not casting dispersions on either one. These were epic games that we wanted to compare for you.
And they're both in our collection.
And they both are.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would be willing to play either one of these with anybody who recommends them. But for this battle royal, it's the networks by a decision of 3-2.
Thanks for joining us for our first edition of Board Game Battle Royal. We had a lot of fun making this. We had a lot of fun preparing for it. And we've got several more of these in store, some ideas on games to pit against each other. And our goal here is hopefully to show you 2 different games of the same thing and which one might come out on top and help you decide which one might be right for you.
Thanks for watching, and thanks for being a part of the Roll to Hit Nation. If you enjoyed us, please subscribe if you haven't already, and go ahead and leave us some comments. Tell us what you thought about this series. For Roll to Hit Gaming, I'm Chip.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Lucas.